Hello everyone, I'm Kalen North, and today we're going to be talking about Spirit Island Nature Incarnate. This is going to be our first impressions video. We're going to be talking about the new Adversary that's included in Nature Incarnate. If you don't want Nature Incarnate spoilers, now's the time to leave. Please come back when you've got your copy or you're ready to see things and check it out. But for now, I'm going to just hop into talking about this new Habsburg monarchy. New Habsburg monarchy? What's that? We already have a Habsburg monarchy. Well, this one is not the Habsburg livestock colony. This one is the Habsburg mining expedition. Now, we are... my camera here is not great quality, so I apologize if it's hard to read on there. But I'll see if I can edit this and superimpose some text or some pictures of the card in higher resolution for you so you can all see what's going on here. But first things first, we've got an additional loss condition, land stripped bare. At the end of the fast phase, the invaders win if any land has at least 8 total invaders and or blight. Now, and that's combined, yeah, combined. That's an interesting loss condition. Reminds me a lot of England, where you lose if you have enough towns and cities in a single land. Probably unless we have things like England that are going to really concentrate invaders, this is mostly just a, hey, control spirits, you can't just lump everything in one spot and then nuke it kind of a thing. But it's definitely an interesting loss condition. I like that it includes blight, because I imagine that's going to be very punishing once we get into the actual levels of the adversary. So that'll be kind of cool to see. Next up is their escalation effect, mining tunnels. So after advancing invader cards, so this is the Explorer flip, resolve, and then we advance the invader cards. On each board, explore in 2 lands whose terrains don't match a Ravage or Build card, no source needed, or required, excuse me. That's interesting. So we're going to be saying whatever escalation card it is going to be in the build slot when this happens. So we're not going to explore again in those same lands. We're going to be exploring in something else. We're also not going to be able to just get rid of the explorers by putting them in empty lands that are about to ravage. So that's going to help build up explorers at least towards that loss condition, and presumably do other nasty things to us as we get down the invader levels. But yeah, that's kind of fun. It reminds me a little bit of France 6, honestly, where you get to just throw random explorers on the board every turn. But I don't know. I think that we need to really talk about the levels, and it'll all make sense once we get there. So, level 1, let's see, we're still at 3/3/3 for fear cards. Avarice rewarded. When blight added by a ravage action would cascade. Instead, upgrade 1 explorer or town before Dahan counterattack. Interesting. That's the first half of the effect. Second half of the effect is ceaseless mining. Lands with 3 or more invaders are mining lands. In mining lands, disease and modifiers of disease affect ravage actions as though they were build actions. So, and then during the build step, build cards cause ravage actions instead of build actions. Interesting. So, mining lands. We've got 3 or more invaders, so kind of like Russia here, where we care about lands with 3 or more explorers, but this is just invaders in general. So, disease affects ravage actions, as though it was a build action, and then during the build step, the build cards cause ravage actions instead of build actions. So if we can we can stop a lot of builds at the cost of a lot more ravages if we can group invaders up. So that's kind of cool. And then going back to that first effect, that kind of makes sense where when we've got blight getting added by a ravage that would cascade, instead we upgrade the towns and explorers. So if we have like 3 explorers in a land and with a blight, and they ravage during the build step, then it sounds like we get to upgrade one of those explorers to a town rather than adding a blight. Oh no, we do add a blight. It doesn't cascade, excuse me. So we'll still get a blight in there, and we'll upgrade a bad guy, but we won't actually cascade to an adjacent land. So the blight stays contained, but still adds up, which is not good for that additional loss condition that we were looking at earlier on. Interesting though. So that's gonna help a little bit too with the loss condition where we're not building in those lands, but it is gonna hurt with the loss condition where we're ravaging in those lands a lot more often. All right, level 2, we get an extra fear card here, 3/3/4 now. Miners come far and wide. So setup: add an explorer in each land with no Dahan. Add a disease in one city in the highest numbered land with a town setup symbol. Interesting. So basically our town setup symbol lands. So for balanced boards, there's always going to be the 1. Thematic boards, it'll be a little different. But we get to add disease and a city to those lands. So they're going to have some extra buildings very far inland usually. That's usually a problem for some spirits. I mean, I think of like river and starting with an inland city is really painful. But not too terrible. Adding the extra explorer in each land with no Dahan is certainly going to help get a lot more mining lands, and we're going to get some of those lands with like triple explorers from the Escalation or something like that that are potentially going to become problems. Yeah, it's cool. I'm curious to see how that plays out. But, extra cities on setup is always kind of painful. So we'll see. The disease is nice, though. All right, level 3, Mining Boom. And that's Mining Boom Part 1, it looks like. After the build step, on each board, choose a land with Explorer, upgrade 1 Explorer there. All right, now we're getting some really fancy things. Oh, and the fear cards are 3/4/4 now. So we're up to 11 fear cards. So after the build step, which is kind of like a Ravage step, we choose a land with Explorer and upgrade it. Now, we're pretty much always going to have Explorers floating around, so that's going to hit most of the time, I think. Especially because of all the extra Explorers from the Escalation, and just most Spirits' inability to completely keep the board clear of Explorers. So that's going to be a mixed thing, I think, because if we have like a land that starts with 1 Explorer, it builds normally, so we're not in a mining land yet. We have it build a town, and then we upgrade the Explorer to a town. So we go from Explorer plus town to double town, which sort of throws off some things, but if you can get a defend in there, that's not much worse, and that's potentially even more fear for the players. So that definitely has some advantages to it. But, extra towns can always be bad if there's other things going on. If we get painful events that give towns bonus damage, that kind of thing. So kind of cool, though. That one feels a little more double-edged to me than just strictly bad for the players. But we'll see. All right, and then next level 4, we're up to 4/4/4 on fear cards, so up to 12. And now this one is Untapped Salt Deposits. Setup: remove the Stage 2 Coastal Lands card before randomly choosing Stage 2 cards. Place the Salt Deposits card in place of the second Stage 2 card. New deck order is 1/1/1, 2 Salt 2/2, 3/3 3/3/3, where S is the Salt Deposits card, and Escalations ignore salts. So that's, what is that saying? So if you escalate, then it's going to not go. Okay, so Escalations ignore salts, so we don't explore in that land, or in the, well, wait, what? Oh, okay. I think I get what this is saying. So the Escalation, you put in a land that doesn't match a Ravager build card, but if the Salt Deposit card is out there, it counts as it doesn't count as a Ravager build card that stopped you from exploring there. And now the Salt Deposits, I've got the card right here. I'll just toss it on there for a moment. Has a couple of things on here. So Salt Deposits is on Explore and Build space. It explores and builds in all non-mining lands. So that's lands with 2 or fewer invaders. And then on the Ravage space, it's mining lands, and we do not advance this card. Now, if I'm understanding that correctly, what that means is that this is going to... it's not going to advance on the Ravage space. So it'll get to the Ravage space and then just stop there. So that's kind of interesting. So we're going to have Ravaging an extra time in every mining land every turn. which is going to quickly lead to major problems if we aren't taking care of those. So that's pretty cool. And then explore and build space, it's going to focus on the non-mining lands. So you're going to get builds in basically everything with 2 or fewer invaders. You're going to get explorers in those lands, and it's going to be interesting. And probably on the Explorer, this could turn non-mining lands into mining lands. So it might explore some lands that it doesn't then build. But overall, I think that's pretty interesting. So that's going to get stuck in our Ravage space. I'm going to pick that up and set it off to the side. And then we've got mining. Okay, level 5, we're at 13 fear cards, 454. Mining Boom Part 2. Instead of Mining Boom Part 1, which was our upgrading an explorer after each build step. After the build step, on each board, choose a land with explorer, build there, then upgrade an explorer. Build normally in a mining land. So that's interesting. So basically, after the build step, we get an extra build. So that's more reminiscent of something like France 2, where we get all of our explorers turning into towns, or something like England's Escalation build, where we get these extra buildings everywhere. So that'll be kind of fun. So we get an explorer, we build at least a town, and then we upgrade an explorer. So if a land, so just hypothetically, empty land, explores with an explorer, builds a town, and then builds a city and upgrades the last explorer to a town. So instead of dealing with town and explorer, you're dealing with city, town, town, which is now a mining land because it's got 3 things in it, which is really nasty for those salt deposits. And yeah, that's harsh. That's interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to see how that plays out. That's going to be a lot of fun to do. All right, and then level 6, sort of the capstone here, still at 13 fear cards, 454. The Empire Ascendant. Set up and during the Explore step. On boards with 3 or fewer blight, add +1 explorer in each land successfully explored. Max 2 lands per board or explore, or 2 lands per board per explore card. Okay, so that's interesting. So every land at the beginning of the game is going to have 3 or fewer blight, or not land, but board rather. So we're going to get double explorers, and they're going to happen during setup. So especially with Mining Boom Part 2, that's going to be really rough, because we're going to then have, instead of City, Town, Town, well, I guess not instead of City, Town, Town, it's going to be City, Town, Town Explorer, which is going to be nasty, but not that much nastier. I think the bigger deal is that getting those extra explorers is going to make it really hard to stop them from getting City, Town, Town. So that'll be interesting. Reminds me of France 2 or France 1 actually, with the double explorers. And then that just hits all game. That's brutal. All right, so that's the Habsburg Mining Expedition. Again, I think some of you have already played this guy a few times, and if you have and you've enjoyed it, let me know. If you absolutely hate it, let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm gonna try some games with this soon myself, and I'll try and give feedback then. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Have a great day.